Okay, so next up, we're going to focus on labels in HTML forms. So labels are exactly what they sound like. They let us add captions to individual elements in our form. And the reason that we use them rather than just a paragraph or some plain text is that labels are really important for making our site accessible. So if someone is visually impaired or blind and they're accessing our form, they're trying to sign up, their screen reading software that they're using is going to look for label tags. And it's going to use those labels to know what each part of the form corresponds to. So it's really important. It's also a nice way just to add a little caption, as you can see here, explaining what each part of the form is used for. So there's two syntaxes we're going to cover. The very first one looks like this. Create a label tag. And then we actually put the input inside that label tag. So we might say something like username, and then we're just going to take this username input and put it inside. And rather than do this, it's a little bit better, make things spaced out a little bit so that we see the true relationship between things. So we'll put password, colon, and then the password input. And there we go. That's all we should need to do. Refresh the page. We now have two labels that correspond to our two inputs. So there is an alternate syntax. Rather than having our inputs nested inside of a label, we actually can do them completely separate, and we connect them in a slightly different way. You can see here we have a label, and it has a for attribute set equal to username, and then we have an input with an ID equal to username. So as long as these two match, screen readers and other accessibility software will know that this label that is for username is corresponding to this input with ID username. So just to show you that, I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this, comment it out, just so we have it. And then what I'm going to do is move the input tags so that they're separate from the labels. They're no longer contained inside of that label tag. So they're no longer nested inside of one another. Okay. And the next thing is connecting them, because right now, although it will look the exact same, for software, for people who are visually impaired, these are not the exact same because they're not actually connected. There is no line connecting this label to this input. So in order to do that, we use the for attribute. Let's say for username. And then over here, we need to say ID is username. And we'll do the same thing, label for password. And just to be clear, the name does not matter. We do want to make sure that it's nice and meaningful. It's not just gibberish, but it does not matter as long as it matches the ID. And refresh. It looks exactly the same, but you can just trust our data is now connected. We have a label for every input.